Ma'am, I'm gonna need you to step aside. That platinum card is probably fake.
The words cut sharper than any blade. Every head in First National Bank's Manhattan branch turned. Phones emerged from pockets. Someone even started live streaming. Dr. Amy Williams stood perfectly still, her tailored navy suit impeccable, her watch a rare Patek Philippe. Brad Thompson, the teller, saw only her skin color, an ebony beauty. Sir, the card verified successfully, Amy said. I need to wire $2.3 million. The deal closes in 47 minutes. Brad smirked. Sure it does, lady. Amy didn't flinch. CEO of Williams and Associates for 12 years, overseeing billions in revenue, she had faced high-pressure boardrooms and hostile negotiations. Yet here in broad daylight, she was reduced to suspicion. Branch manager Susan Chen emerged. Is there a problem here? Brad hesitated. The transaction, it doesn't fit the demographic. A live stream exploded with viewers watching in real time. Amy calmly placed her corporate Black Centurion card on the counter. The transaction is legitimate, she said, voice precise. She opened her briefcase, contracts, due diligence reports, acquisition documents, all organized meticulously. Security guard Mike Rodriguez approached, tense. Amy made a silent call. Code red. 47th Street, First National Bank. 45 minutes to save the deal. The lobby had become a battlefield. Phones recorded every move. Maria Santos's live stream had gone viral. Thousands of eyes on a single act of discrimination. Mrs. Chen, we have protocols for unusual transactions, the manager said, voice tight. Amy's assistant texted urgently. Sellers getting nervous. Deal falls in 43 minutes. Amy opened her briefcase with surgical precision. Acquisition contracts, financial reports, even a first-class boarding pass for the private jet carrying the deal's principals. These are the documents for the wire transfer, she said. Williams and Associates is acquiring a tech startup. The wire is critical. Regional Manager Derek Walsh arrived, harried but authoritative. How can we resolve this? Process my wire transfer. 2.3 million. Legitimate business transaction, Amy replied. Walsh glanced at Brad, who shook his head. Our teller has concerns based on account history, Walsh explained. A civil rights attorney stepped forward. Are you seriously suggesting account history determines service quality? What would you do if you witnessed discrimination at this scale? Speak up or stay silent. Live comments on Maria's stream scorched the bank. This is racism. Sue them all. The story had morphed from banking to public spectacle. Local news arrived. Social media amplified every interaction. Amy's eyes were calm, calculating. 8 years of banking relationship, hundreds of millions in deposits, now weapons in her strategy. She dialed again. Patricia Morrison, chief legal officer, answered. Within minutes, 6 lawyers mobilized. Paralegals printed complaints, contracts, precedents. The lobby became a command center of legal authority, and the live audience swelled to over 12,000 viewers. Every second counted. The bank's prestige and the $200 million acquisition hung in the balance. But Amy was no longer negotiating with a teller or a manager. She was orchestrating a reckoning. Patricia Morrison entered the lobby like a storm contained in a tailored suit, flanked by her associates. Every step radiated authority. 30,000 people were watching now, their phones capturing each calculated move. Miss Williams, Patricia said calmly, opening her leather portfolio, I have the documentation you requested. She revealed the confidential client relationship analysis, Williams and Associates' entire portfolio, $847 million in deposits, $23.4 million in annual fees, 42% of the branch's quarterly revenue. Walsh's face drained of color. The senior teller who had caused this chaos now looked like a bystander in his own bank's imploding narrative. Brad Thompson, who had questioned Amy's legitimacy, shook visibly. Every onlooker could feel the weight of his error. Mr. Walsh, process the wire immediately, Amy instructed. Professional, colorblind, and precise, Maria Gonzalez stepped forward and executed the transaction. The $2.3 million moved seamlessly, yet the real victory was larger. This discrimination was public, and so would be its consequences. 3 non-negotiables were laid down: a filmed public apology across all bank channels, immediate termination of discriminatory staff, and mandatory bias training with external oversight. The lobby erupted. Social media comments celebrated the dismantling of prejudice in real time. Corporate headquarters was now in crisis mode. Every executive knew the stakes. $847 million in deposits, 23.4 million in annual fees, reputational collapse. Amy had turned humiliation into leverage and institutional prejudice into a public lesson. The power shift was undeniable. A single act of courage, amplified by strategy and legal authority, had reversed the narrative completely. The bank no longer controlled the story. It was now subject to the scrutiny of tens of thousands, and Amy Williams held all the cards. By the time Amy, Patricia, and the legal team reached the conference room, First National Bank's executive leadership was already in crisis mode. Margaret Foster, the bank president, sat at the head of a sleek, intimidating table. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Manhattan's financial district, but today they felt like prison bars. Dr. Williams, I apologize for the circumstances, Foster began, though the blame was on her staff. Amara responded calmly, the circumstances were created by your employees. I'm here to discuss resolution. Patricia laid out the evidence. $847 million in deposits, $23.4 million in annual fees, 42% of the branch's quarterly revenue, economic impact extending far beyond the branch itself. Foster's face paled. The scope was staggering. Amy's three non-negotiables were clear. 1. Public apology on all bank channels within 6 hours. 2. Immediate termination of discriminatory staff. 3. Mandatory bias training for all branches with external oversight. Foster's team calculated the consequences of refusal. Immediate loss of $847 million in deposits, $23.4 million in annual fees evaporating, stock price decline, regulatory scrutiny, and public relations disaster. Short-term compliance was cheaper than long-term destruction. Have you ever seen one person turn personal injustice into systemic reform? Share examples from your own life or community below. Within hours, First National Bank executed the changes. Brad Thompson was terminated. Susan Chen was suspended pending investigation and mandated bias training. Derek Walsh received a formal reprimand and retraining. The public apology was posted across all channels, scripted to maximize accountability and transparency. Amy didn't stop at immediate corporate reform. She implemented a $50 million community investment plan through the Williams and Associates Foundation, funding minority-owned small businesses, homeownership programs, and scholarships. Applications were personally reviewed, ensuring impact went directly to underserved communities. The ripple effects were immediate. First National Bank's internal bias complaints dropped 87% over 6 months, minority employee promotion rates increased, and diverse customer acquisition rose 56%. Other banks adopted similar training programs. The incident became a required case study at Harvard Business School and across the American Banking Association. Amy Williams had transformed discrimination into systemic change. What began as a humiliating public confrontation became a blueprint for corporate accountability, showing that courage combined with strategy can turn prejudice into opportunity and humiliation into institutional reform. Months after the First National Bank incident, the financial world had taken notice. Dr. Amy Williams' courage had ignited systemic change. The Dignity Banking initiative she implemented through Williams and Associates Foundation had approved hundreds of small business loans worth tens of millions, prioritizing minority entrepreneurs. Minority hiring in the industry increased, promotion rates reached parity across demographic groups, and discrimination complaints dropped to near zero. Have you ever seen one person's courage ripple across an entire industry? This is exactly that moment. The story spread far beyond banking. Harvard Business School created a case study detailing the incident, corporate response, and lasting reforms. 12 major banks adopted bias training programs modeled on the First National Bank experience. The American Banking Association updated industry standards, requiring accessible, anonymous reporting systems for discrimination complaints. Civil rights attorney Stephen Rodriguez used the case in seminars. Congress cited it during hearings on financial services bias, and leaders across industries began reevaluating internal equity policies. Amy herself became a sought-after speaker on leadership, diversity, and strategic justice. She told audiences, "Power isn't about what you can destroy. It's about what you choose to build. Discrimination is costly, morally and financially. Courage paired with strategy creates real change." The tech startup acquisition that had triggered the crisis succeeded beyond expectations. 800 jobs created, 68% filled by minority candidates, corporate revenue expanded, government contracts flourished across 4 continents. Meanwhile, Maria Santos, the live streamer who documented the incident, transformed her viral fame into a consulting business, helping corporations respond to discrimination complaints and build accountability systems. Social media and mainstream media amplified the story, reaching millions and reinforcing the lesson that prejudice has tangible consequences.
Doctor.
Williams had achieved more than protecting her company's deal. She had turned personal humiliation into a nationwide call for corporate justice. One act of quiet, calculated resistance reshaped an entire industry, proving that dignity, data, and decisive action could overcome systemic prejudice. Individual courage had driven systemic change. Lives were impacted, communities empowered, and institutional culture forever altered. In the end, First National Bank learned that discrimination is not only morally wrong, but financially disastrous. And for Amy Williams, this was proof that true leadership builds opportunity, not obstacles, showing the world that human dignity always prevails when courage meets strategy. From the other side of silence, toss stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story. Because stories like this reminds us that courage, strategy, and unwavering dignity can change not just one life, but entire systems.